We also want people to be, while they're hunkered down, to be mindful of their own health. And I'm going to ask our chief medical examiner to come up and talk about some medical safety tips that people should be aware of starting now throughout the duration of the storm. So we are very, very, very concerned about health, life, and safety of DC residents. That's my first concern. And where is, there's Dr. Mitchell. 1 second.
Yes, in addition to not utilizing generators in your homes, it's important if you decide, if heat goes out in your home and you decide to utilize your vehicles to heat yourself and your family, that you dig out around your tailpipes to ensure that there is no problems inside the vehicle. In addition, those that are elderly or take medications on a regular basis, they should stock up on their medications through their pharmacy and their physician now, at least for the next 72 to 96 hours. For those individuals that have home care needs, that have electricity that powers their respirator devices or oxygen devices, you want to make sure that if your electricity goes out and you have no backup generation, that you contact 911 and get to the closest medical facility. Self-care is extremely important during these types of events, so it's important that if you have questions about what you will need and you have chronic issues from a medical perspective, that you communicate with your physician. It's important that we take in heed what the director has said and the mayor has said. Thank you very much. We have not. We have movement of a mobile morgue actually this afternoon that'll be moving closer to our facility. This type of event, we believe that if those types of resources are needed, they'll be needed after it is thawed and everything is passable.
Any other questions? Yes, Aaron? Sure. Let me have Director Geldhart come up and answer questions about emergency response.
Thank you, Aaron. As I said earlier, we have a lot of apparatus in the city for clearing roads, whether it be snow plows or buckets or big plows or small plows. We have a plethora of resources. We're going to be gearing those resources throughout the snowfall to ensure that we can get the emergency services, the police and the fire and the paramedics, to where they need to go. We will be responding throughout this entire event. Now, is there a potential for there to be delayed response times? Yes, there is. This is 2 feet of snow. We're going to do everything we can to maintain our response times, to get people the help they need as quick as possible. We'll be fighting Mother Nature on that for the next 24 to 36 hours.
Yes, sir. Actually, we're entirely focused on the blizzard and being prepared for the blizzard, and there are incidents that really don't have a lot in common. Yes. I don't even know how to start to answer that question. We have a forecast that I don't think we've had in 90 years. And we know that people can be hurt in storms like this. So my staff knows that they're going out to gather all the resources that are necessary, and we will spend what it takes to keep the District of Columbia safe. I never like to close down the government, the schools, or see the city not be able to function as we expected. But none of us has control over Mother Nature, and we have to act as if we have an emergency, and that's what's coming our way. Yes. Let me ask Chris, what as you know, our folks monitor any large gathering. We've gotten this question about the march. Certainly, we talk to all organizers and ask them to be responsible about the events that they're holding. We will have metro operations through 11 p.m. on Metro Rail. We know a lot of visitors to the Verizon Center. That's how they're traveling. So let me start with Chris Geltart, and if Metro has anything to add.
So over the last several days, I've had the opportunity to talk to the NBA, the NHL, the BET honors, and several other event organizers that have events going on through this weekend. The Council of Mayors also had an event here this weekend. We've talked to all of these organizers, and we have told them that we are telling our residents, the folks here in the city, to be off the streets by 3 o'clock. If the Capitals decide to bring their players in and put them in danger like that, and the other folks do the same, I cannot tell the NHL or the NBA what to do with that, but I have highly encouraged them to not have those games.
Anybody who hasn't asked a question? Let me go back to you, Mark. We have, yes. Well, we cannot anticipate how many trees or wires will go down. I think it's safe to say, as we have already mentioned, that 36 hours driving wet snow and sustained winds would mean that we see trees go down and power customers affected. Our first calls to Pepco were to make sure that they were doing the same planning that we were doing and contacting and contracting outside resources. Our Pepco representative was with us yesterday to give an update on that. And Pepco is embedded with us here at the Emergency Operations Center. Chris, do you want to add anything else?
So we did early in the week model this event with Pepco to take a look historically of what has happened in the past with events like this. We do have an estimate of what we're looking at that, and I will tell you to you on this end, if we have less than 25,000 customers without power at the end of this storm, it will have been a good day. So that's what we're preparing for. To that end, we have in the city, working through the Department of Human Services and the Department of Park and Recreations, established one warming center in each ward to be staffed and have the resources that they can deploy to additional centers. What we're doing, if you can imagine that, is put the equipment out there in each ward. So we have 8 warming centers established, and you can find that map on the the snow.dc website. We've established those first 8. We have another 24 that we can open very quickly if we have an abundance of power outages or if situations like that where we need to provide more shelter for the city residents. So in total, 32 sites identified, 8 of them will be open. All of this information is on snow.dc.gov. Sure. Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah, let me to address that directly with the Snowmageddon. Snowmageddon was multiple storms put together over several days. Okay, we're going to get an equivalent of 3 of those storms that happened over that time in one storm. The difference in this storm than that is we are going to have up to 50-mile-an-hour gusts. Now, if you think about all the things that are out there, another thing that we have on our preparedness site is to make sure you're securing anything that you may have out on your decks, your front patios, things like that, because with 50-mile-an-hour winds, a lot of things are going to be blowing around. This is a potentially deadly storm. Numbers given from the National Weather Service this morning, there could be periods and bands of snow within this where we're getting 3 inches of snow an hour, that kind of rate. That is not something we saw during the Snowmageddon. So that's a potential that we're looking at with this. So it is a very different event. The folks that do the snowball fight out at DuPont Circle, Sunday's a great day for that. Yes, sir. Absolutely. We actually have brought in considerable resources from FEMA in case we need to do sheltering beyond and above what we're estimating. So we wanted to make sure we had anything like that on hand and the ability to access that during the storm. So we have on hand the capability to shelter, that's food, water, blankets, all of that that goes into that, up to 48,000 people. So we have that on hand. I personally talked to the emergency managers from the states of Connecticut, from Georgia, from Massachusetts, and who've all called and said, whatever you need. We've brought in the additional crews locally that we have here. We've done the contracts that we need to here. We believe that we have what we need to coming out the back end of this storm, but we always have that opportunity to bring in additional equipment. Again, I want to reemphasize, this storm will be deadly. We need people off the streets. So if you expect to see your street to be plowed during the day on Saturday or going through Saturday evening, it's not going to happen. We're going to keep the roads passable. We're going to make sure our emergency crews can get to where they need to. And then come Sunday, late Saturday night, Sunday, depending on the weather, that's when we're going to start in earnest the digging out of the city. Sir?
Well, one thing, I've declared a state of emergency in the District of Columbia, which would give us tremendous authority to get ready for this storm, to make sure our streets are passable, and then to clean up afterwards. What we're most concerned about, Mark, are people who want to stay outside and sleep outside and be exposed to the elements for any considerable amount of time. And we do have the authority to make sure they are safe and inside. We expect to assess where we are on Sunday, the early part of Sunday.